Hello, I'm Penelope Maver, and welcome back to the Earth Converse podcast, where we explore our relationship and conversations with the Earth, all in the hope of inspiring a deeper connection with ourselves, each other, and the Earth that is our home. And it is very heartwarming to have Nando García Ferreiro here with me. He is part of, guess, the living and dying crowd. I've had a few, but that's the thing. You go to these, you're drawn to these beautiful retreats or programs or healing, and you meet people on your journey and you just resonate. So hello, hola, buenos dias.
Hola.
Nando, well, I'll call him Nando.
Yes.
Look, was so beautiful. So part of the living and dying process is at one stage we're invited to go out and metaphorically die. So choose a place to and a way of dying. And like some people, they either stayed in the around the area or inside, or wanted to have a ceremony with other people. And I was determined actually to be by myself. And I remember actually running I wanted to get the sunset, and I saw Meredith, and I thought, here I will be late for my own funeral. I mean, really. But anyway, it was so ridiculous. So I got there, it's sort of sunset, but then I was trying to find my spot, and to die, you got to, it takes some. And then I heard this rustle and this hola, and I got the fright of my life. It was Nando. We both thought that we were sort of, away from everybody. But anyway, it was really interesting because I did go further away, but actually dying that night, I was very comforted to know that somebody so lovely was so
I'm touched.
Honestly, it really was really beautiful. And so I feel like I've got a beautiful bond with you, and though we don't know each other well, but in that retreat, like, I was just struck, this man is on a mission. And I just really felt, you said about retirement, this is the best years of your life, these and just this man into consciousness, throwing himself in with such rigor and intelligence and commitment. And whether it being, not flying, veganism. And you were also, at that time, it was pre-COVID, you were thinking about a commune, in terms of that. And community is so important to you. And we'll talk about that. But I'm doing a little bit of a Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really struck by your, so will you end up eternally in hell, Nando?
Yeah, wow. That's the scare of my life. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was a rainy afternoon in northern Spain in the 60s. I was in school, and suddenly the teacher started talking about the end of the world and the final judgment. And I was sitting next to my brother, who didn't even notice, because I talked to him some time ago. Do you remember that one? I was traumatized. What? He did, which tells you, how life impacts, how we are attuned to some things and not to others. So this teacher started telling about, okay, it's the end of the world. The dead start coming out of their graveyards, and there is this big tribunal, this big court, and each of us is going to go to face your final judgment, and they will monitor and scrutinize every single thing you did, you said, you thought, and if you don't pass the test, hell for eternity. I said, wow, eternity. Eternity, as Woody Allen used to say, it's very long, especially towards the end. Eternity is so long. And I was actually, I must have been 7 or 8. And my real scare was not so much, well, maybe later with the therapist, he told me that maybe the scare was hell, but what I heard was eternity. And my mind couldn't comprehend that, and I used to go when I was 9, 10, 11, I used to go to bed at night, and start thinking about this thing. Okay, fine, I accept that I'm going to die. Imagine you're 10 and you're already accepting, and that's not the bad thing. The worst thing is that you die and there's nothing you can do about it because you're headed towards that. And then you enter into something that never ends. You know, I still have on my stomach, and then I read that this is in the manual of psychological disorders. You know, so there is a phobia to eternity. I don't know, because I realize that when I share this with other people, some people say, "So what's the big deal?" You know, I mean, what can be bigger than eternity? You know, something that never ends. You know, never ends. And then I started, you know, many sleepless nights, you know, and in silence, because of course you don't share that with anybody, you know, with my brothers or my parents. And I started thinking, you know, trying to find a way out. And I remember one of the things I thought is, okay, if God is so good, he can turn me off. I said, listen, I'm not enjoying the trip, so please turn me off. I'm not liking this, you know? yeah, get me out of this, you know. So that was one, you know, and that helped me soothe it. Wow. That more or less, you know, I managed, and then sometime later, I came to this, to this epiphany. Why do I bother about what happens after life if I've never cared about what happened before life? Because eternity goes forward and goes also forward, backwards, you know? So, I mean, if I must have been in eternity already before, and so and then a bit later, I became a Buddhist without knowing it, or a Buddhist or a nihilist, you know? Because I said, but in the end, the problem is not death. The problem is not eternity. The problem is the awareness that you're in eternity. You know, I mean, when you sleep, if you're not aware that you're sleeping, that's okay. So the problem, so that was the thing. So an awareness is something that is linked to my individuality. So it's Nando or Fernando, you know, and aware that still there are a few years to go still, you know. Yeah. So I realized that in a way, if you, I started thinking about consciousness, you know, who am I? You know, what if I die, who goes to this eternity? Goes this Fernando, you know, who was born in 58, or goes something which merges, you know, there is a lot of metaphors about our lives being rivers which go to the sea, and then you become the sea, you know, and that was extremely soothing to me. Yeah. Listen, okay, if you go to the sea and you become sea and you're part of that, so there is no big deal. So you're there, and okay, you go in your journey. So that's and that marked. So that had this massive influence on my real interest, deep existential interest in what are we and where are we headed. And then, and this was more unconscious, and this is a long answer, I'm realizing, I got obsessed with competence. I've always been obsessed with competence, obsessed. No, and I admire competence. And I see somebody sweeping in the streets, and I love it. You know, I can watch. You know, when somebody does something well, I just love it.
Attention and love,
yeah. And you know, I've been thinking, why am I so obsessed with competence? And I admire so much competent people in whatever they do. And thinking a possible explanation is that the little child that I was wanted to be competent, to be prepared for this judgment.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to have a good record. You know, listen, I checked all the boxes. I gave to the poor. You know, I didn't sin. I didn't. So yeah, I'm good. So trying to be good.
Yeah.
You know, a good Christian or a good human or a good wherever, just for the sake of, you know, being ready for that. Record.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why you went to the European Commission. But
possibly. No, I can tell you why I went to the European Commission.
But hold on.
Ask the questions.
And I loved, but this river metaphor.
Yeah.
Have you intellectualized that? Or I mean, you come from the sea, you come from Llanes, you know, like, I mean, yes. Did you feel that, or is that just something that you've thought about in the past, or this, because that's a beautiful analogy. I've never thought about that before.
It is. It is. I mean, you know, there is. I mean, the name escapes me. There is these amazing poets in the Spanish literature of, I think it must be in the 16th century. Nuestras vidas son los ríos que van a dar al mar, que es el morir.
Oh,
Allí van los señoríos. A beautiful, you know. My goodness, it's so famous. But Alzheimer is. So, but I spent my childhood in the sea, you know, and even if it's a rough one, as you know, in the Atlantic, you know, and there is some embodiment in there, you know, this dissolution.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I can imagine. But it's so fascinating. Like your brother's sleeping soundly, and here you are tormented.
No.
That's so interesting, and you know, and also this feeling of like you're not being able to talk to anybody about it.
No, and it was very lonely, you know, because I remember coming back from school when I was 10, and we are 5 siblings and my parents, you know, and seeing them in their daily life, you know, watching TV and seeing for them, they are totally unaware of you know, we are headed to this awful thing, and they are watching TV.
That's really, to be like, sort of observe that, and am I part of that?
Yes.
And I love, when you said about eternity, but then what's in the, you know, before eternity, living, and it reminds me of, I love Gladiator, and Russell Crowe was Maximus. You know what we are to do in life echoes in eternity. So you've really committed to your own competence and your own journey. You've been committed to this journey.
Definitely.
Like it's informed.
And you know, you've read my short biography, but I mean, and this is my narrative. You know, sometimes it's a construct. You know, but I think that this deep fear for eternity, maybe hell, led me to a deep dive into religion. So I wanted to be a good Christian. You know, I want to say, okay, I went there, but amazingly, you know, I mean, I used to go to mass every day, you know, and I was my education was with the Jesuits, you know, and there was this Christian group where we were having discussions. I remember one fascinating one where I must have been 14 or 15 there, you know, and we were in a group with this priest, and we were talking about transcendence, you know, I mean, what happens after death, you know, and he was saying, okay, some people go to paradise, and I said, people, or will I meet? Will there be pigs and dogs and flowers there? So who gains the ticket to go there? Oh no, only humans, only human beings will be there. And I've always been fascinated by prehistory and by evolution. And I remember asking him, and I thought, you know, humans, okay, at what point in the evolution you gain the tickets? I mean, will there be Neanderthals there? Will there be Australopithecus? Will there be maybe chimpanzees who are 99% genetically like us? You know, what will I find there? You know, and why? You know, and why us? Because our brain is bigger, or no, because we have a soul. Oh, we have a soul. And you know, at what point you get the soul? You know, who was the father who didn't get a soul, and then the son suddenly gets a soul? You know, because at one point in evolution, must have, you know, one doesn't have it and the other one.
Great question.
I never got an answer. And I actually met this father, you know, a couple of years ago. He wrote to me. I wrote to him, and he's still alive. His father Saborido, and in one of my trips to Spain, because I'm here in Brussels, I had lunch with him, and I put the question again, and he still didn't know what to answer.
Yeah. And do you, when somebody asks you that, what do you say?
Oh no, I mean, I'm very clear about that. I am an ape. I am a primate. And you know, the more I read about that, the more I'm convinced. You know, I'm a primate who made 2 mistakes in his way. One is culture, and the other one is technology. And I'm quoting Charles Einstein. You know Charles Einstein, maybe, in his books. You know, The Ascent of Humanity is my amazing book. You know, when we started playing with fire, which some people say is 1 million years ago, other people say 500,000 years ago. Probably the Erectus did it already. So fire, we started separating from nature. because fire, okay, gives you light at night, which is not natural, keeps the beasts away, allows you to cook, etc., etc. So fire and stone axes, and tools, those things, and around the fire start telling stories and transmitting knowledge. This got us into the ascent. And I like it how Charles Eisen said, an ascent means that you're getting separated from the ground. So and you get to a life like the one we have now, which makes no sense whatsoever, in front of our computers. I'm talking to a screen. in the middle of the garden, talking to a screen, thinking that there's somebody on the other side.
Yeah, what's the parallel universe? Yeah, but in terms of but your answer around eternity and hell and death and that your end, like where have you come in your own heart and mind, and what is it the river to the sea vision that you're holding? No. Because we are part of the human ability is our imagination, isn't it? That's our superpower, and our reflective ability. So it's a little bit of manifesting and co-creating that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
where have you, because you're now a death doula, you're training to be a death doula, and you want your mission to accompany people in dying and dying or collapsing community. So where have you come to in terms of your own thinking?
Well, I think this brings us back to our retreat in September 2019. I went there because I had a growing interest in death, and then I saw this retreat with Meredith Little, and it was amazing, the kind of things we practiced there and the people we met, and the whole thing was very, very deep. After that retreat, right after that one, I went to another retreat, and I think I told you, with Jen Bendel and Katie Carr, who are the founders of Deep Adaptation, which is an organization where I'm playing a big role. Basically, it's what I do nowadays. I'm very, very involved with them. And Deep Adaptation is a space, it's a place, it's an organization, it's a group of people contemplating the collapse of our civilization. So it's a place where we allow ourselves to consider the possibility / probability / inevitability that the whole system is going to collapse. And I went, immediately after a retreat on death and the practice of living and dying, I spent 5 days going very deep into embracing, befriending the idea of the collapse of our civilization or society and the massive dying that is going on in the planet. And after that, I came to Brussels, and a couple of days later, I got the news from my mother. Started calling me. My mother was 85, an amazing woman, dynamic, young, beautiful, elegant, and with an amazing health. That summer we had been snorkeling together. It's so, and suddenly, I don't breathe well. I don't know. I have a problem, etc. So she went to hospital, and 5 days later she came back home with a terminal cancer diagnosis. 2 months, 2 months to go. Completely unexpected. So I went to Spain, to Santander, to her place, and I accompanied her until her death on the 4th of January. And that was marking, being with a dying person that you love so much and who loves you so much, with such an intensity, such a depth, and equipped, and that's the wrong word. Equipped with the practices, that we had been exploring with Meredith Little was very interesting. I remember the Ho'oponopono, okay, the practice of forgive, ask for forgiveness, thank, say I love you and say goodbye, and this is what I tried with my mother, and it was probably the most beautiful experience in my life. Very sad, but very, very deep, and that gave me I knew that I had this calling, you know, to be next to people in the process of dying, and to accompany a society which is slowly dying as well, you know, or a model of society which is dying. So I thought maybe my calling, which is not a most really joyful one, is to do this, is to accompany individuals and communities in the process of dying.
This is the most profound work. I mean, really, and it's so significant. I mean, is that not the, I mean, and it's so beautifully informed by that young 7-year-old, you know, trying to make sense of it. And so therefore your own accompanying, giving people that comfort for that transition wherever they're going. And but also you doing that gives your own insight into understanding what it will be for you. Like,
definitely, yes.
I mean, and also this, I guess, because of the collapsing, we want the system to collapse. It needs to collapse. It's going to, and what will be reborn, you know?
Yes, indeed. Is the whole narrative of the dark night of the soul, you know, which I've been also exploring with Andrew Harvey and other authors, you know, and again, we go back to Christ, you know, I mean, you need a crucifixion. You need a crucifixion before resurrection, you know. So the same happens with this. We need to, this society, this model needs to go down so that we have a chance maybe to recreate a life-sustaining kind of civilization, because this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you said that I'm a vegan. I used to be a pain in the neck. I'm now more resigned, you know, but I don't try to convince anybody. Okay, reflect about the billions of animals that we need to kill just for the pleasure of our, you know, eating.
And it's a construct as well, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and a lot of marketing behind it, I think. You know. Actually, just for something, I'm not religious, but I'm a friend of mine from Italy, Tommaso Tedesca. He's in LA, but he started Tom LA Books, and he's giving a gift to the world of an English interpretation or talking through Dante's Inferno.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Canto by canto, and you know, we're down in the Inferno. So that's been really interesting, and the Christian perspective of that. So it's been interesting, but you're mixing, you know, you even said about the Buddhism, like, your own understanding, whether it's the natural world or indigenous based wisdom or Christianity, Buddhism. I mean, you're exploring what it means for you. Yeah, definitely.
And also, and this is also very soothing. And I had the epiphany doing El Camino. I did El Primitivo. Is replacing this masculine God who is there to judge you and who looked quite a lot like my father, who was a very serious guy, you know, replacing him by a nurturing mother, you know. When I was doing El Camino, I was trying, you know, I knew, okay, this is a spiritual experience. I did it on my own, of course, in a very tough moment, you know, at the end of February, you know, and I did El Primitivo, which is a tough one. And I was saying prayers, but they sounded hollow, you know, and I was even trying, you know, the Gayatri mantra, or it didn't sound, you know, I was not in that. So I decided to write my own prayer to the goddess of the universe, you know, and I decided to take a feminine deity, you know, and then I realized that this goddess is nature, is nature, is reality, you know. And in a way, since then, I realized that I'm supported and accompanied, I'm guided, I'm inspired by two feminine things, you know, which is my mother, who's there supporting me and holding my hand, and Mother Nature, you know. And this is extremely soothing, you know, because they don't judge you. You know, they might kill you, but they don't judge you.
They're not discriminatory, are they? They sort of, yes. Oh, that's so, and mean in the brace of that. And have you resolved, like in your heart, you said it in your, to me that, you know, your dad's death didn't affect you that much, you know, you were sort of kind of sad by that, but have you been able to resolve your own healing relationship with the, you know, the judgment? Can you see him more than a judgment? He's a, you know, judging character. Is that part of your journey as well?
It's interesting because some, you know, 2018 was a very interesting year for me. I did many things there, but one of them was to retire. That was probably the best decision in my life, you know. But before that, and instrumental for that was a week that I spent in the mountains in Italy with Luca Lamperti, who is one of my best friends, definitely, you know. And Luca is a former paratrooper, you know, who was in war and came back from war in Yugoslavia with a strong post-traumatic stress disorder, you know. And
how do you know him? Sorry, just yeah. How do you know
strong,
him?
Excuse me.
Oh, how do you know him?
When I was director for health and well-being in the commission, my last job, somebody said, "Listen, couple of weeks, this friend of ours who's a coach for leaders, you know, and does survival courses, comes to Brussels. Would you like to meet him?" And of course, I've always been very interested in meeting people, you know. So he came to my office. It was December. He came with a T-shirt. And it was -5, and he was in a T-shirt, and I think even shorts, you know. An amazing guy, and it was love at first sight. You know, a guy in his early 50s, you know, strong as a bull, you know, and with this, I mean, he looked into your eyes, and you see the soul there. And he started telling me about his life, you know, and then at the end of my interview, he was telling me about what he does. He takes people to nature, to the forest, you know, and he teaches them the basic survival skills. Okay, light a fire, you know, make a bivac for that. But that was not the thing. The thing is not about survival skills. His thing is help people face their fears. You know, and this is, and at the end of this interview, he said, Fernando or Nando, I don't know. He said, I think I would love to have a one-on-one with you, because he normally takes groups. I said, yeah, of course, what a privilege. So I called him. I called him the next day. You know, listen, when? Okay, next week or whatever. Or 2 weeks later, so and we went on a one-on-one to Mezzoldo in northern Italy, and it was 1 week where I mean, I faced my fears like crazy. One of the first things he told me, okay, tell me physically, what are your big fears? And I said, heights, you know, vertigo. Oh, yes, great.
So he takes you.
Yeah, at the end of the week, we jumped from a parachute, you know, and I was doing rappel, you know, the first, you know, we were to this ravine or whatever you call it, you know, and he throws a rope. Okay, go down. And I said, no way. I'm not in a hurry. 3 hours. No, I will not do it. I did it. And then when I did it, okay, let's go up again. And now you do it blindfolded. No, come on. How? I did it. And then, okay, you're going to do the head down, you know, and like this, you know, facing it all the time, you know, and there I started seeing, you know, the importance of facing your fears. And this resonated massively with me. And I come back to your question about judgment, you know. A couple of years before, in 2016, I had decided to take this last job in the European Commission, which I had, in a way, my heart wanted this job, but I was scared to death, because it was the job to be responsible for the health and well-being of 40,000 people in the European Commission, which includes everything from suicides to harassment to, you know, physical, you know, cancer, also the safety issues like asbestos, like, you know, so the possibilities of having to face judges, lawyers, inspectors, auditors, you know, that was my life. So, and I went straight on to that, you know. So I went there to be judged, you know, and also, you know, I went there because I wanted to create a care agenda, strong care agenda within the European Commission. And
bring in the feminine.
Yeah, indeed. And you know, and I came with this, and we are going healthier, safer, greener, and closer to society. And that was my agenda. So I brought volunteering, I brought mindfulness, I pushed for the environmental impact of the commission massively, you know, reducing consumption of paper, power, or whatever. But I had to face a lot of trouble in terms of judgment, you know, ombudsman inspections and things like that. So in a way, I faced my demons there.
Yeah, and huge resistance and rejection of ideas, I can imagine as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, first time I mentioned to my supervisor the idea of introducing mindfulness with the senior managers. I've been exposed to a lot of eye rolling in my life. Like what? You know?
Yeah.
But slowly and gradually I managed, and I realized, you know, my years in the commission were interesting in terms of understanding the role of power. And you give me 2 minutes, I can tell you a model that I use very often, because I was also an internal, I was a top HR human resource consultant in the European Commission for a few years, you know, and I had the privilege to go and facilitate and teach and lecture the top leaders in the organization, the top teams. And I found this model, which I loved, which was the model of the 4 power animals, nothing to do with shamanism. Is a model, you know, with a typical, you know, the four quadrant model, you know. Yeah. So in the vertical you have, okay, how good are you at navigating power? Poor or very good at navigating power. And then on the horizontal is, are you focused on yourself or on the good of the organization? And that gives you 4 animals. That gives you the donkey, very, very, very donkey for power and focus on yourself. That gives you the fox, extremely good at navigating power. And power means resources, legitimacy, authorizations, you know, power is what you need to move things, you know. And then on the other side is the sheep. Okay, yeah, you're very good and very focused on great things, very hippie, but relatively irrelevant, you know. And then you have the owl. And the owl is the one which combines a good navigation skill for power. So you manage to get resources, to get authorizations and legitimacy, but you're focused on the general good, on the collective good, rather than on your own things, you know. And I was doing that all the time. And in fact, you know, I used to have these conversations with the managers in the commission and with voting devices, anonymous voting devices. That was fun, you know. Yeah, and the first question is, okay, what is the predominant animal here? Yeah. Fox. Okay, what animal are you? Owl. Okay, this doesn't add up. how can it be, you know? So, and the question was, what is more difficult, to transform genetically a fox into an owl? You know, so take somebody, you know, from focusing on his or her interest into the collective interest, because they already have what it takes in terms of navigating power, or a sheep into an owl, you know, somebody who has already the goodness in their spirit and their soul, but are reluctant or unskilled in navigating the world of power, you know. And I still don't have the answer.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of a good ram would.
Oh yeah, indeed, ram, you know. Or yeah, but I don't know what I was introducing this, but that was part of, you know, the interest in power in organizations, and in power in general, you know, and using power for the collective good is such a crucial topic, you know, which also concerns with my take with politicians, you know, which. No, I know they have a difficult job, okay, but they chose it.
Yeah, and what is driving? What is the intention? I think that a lot of our work is around what is the intention that, you know, does it come from that, you know, big heart and collective good? And who are you in service of? Are you in service of the world, you know? Yeah. Or, but I'm going back, and I'll weave you back way back, because I want to go into the commission about, you know, life there. But so Luca, had you ever done anything like that, gone out to nature in this way, or this outdoory challenge way before, Luca?
Not really. I've always liked snorkeling, and I've been snorkeling far away from, you know, but I mean, not in the way of Luca, you know. That was quite radical with Luca. quite
Because
radical.
it sounds like, didn't he get you right at the right time? And it was like a resounding yes, like the day after.
Yes,
Sign me
yes,
up.
yes,
Isn't
yes.
it? And no wonder he's still a really good friend, but just this, and then facing your fears. And I guess my question to it was about your dad. So is there something about that you've been able to resolve your own in his passing, or even now that you've sort of making sense of it? I mean, you now unfortunately like both parents, but can you resolve your story around that? Like, because the masculine, to go, yeah, like you were saying with Mother Nature and your mum, that nurturing, that caring, that feminine power. But the male isn't just judgmental, is it? It's control. It gets things done. It's about competence.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know where my question is, but I guess yeah.
Your question is whether I have resolved it, and I'm not sure. I'll tell you a very beautiful story as well. When Miguel, my son, who's 25 now, was something like 8 or 9, one day he was very scared with death, and it was a night, or he was in bed, and I had this great idea, which I don't know what I took, but it was nice. Took him to the kitchen, and I went to the freezer, and I said, Miguel, sit down here. Okay, let's take a glass of water and pour some warm water in that glass, And then, okay, let's take an ice cube. Okay, this is you, Miguel. This is you. Okay, let's put it in the glass of water, and let's wait for a minute. Okay. You see, you're there. The form is no longer there, but you're there.
Wow.
That's death. Only that. Nothing more than that. And is the same idea of the river, but probably even better, because I mean an ice cube has a form, has an identity. Okay, you can take it, you can touch it, and then once one is melted inside the water, and in a way that is soothing for me. That is soothing, and I don't know whether because the fact that you're dissolved means that nobody can really identify who was the guy to be judged, because maybe it's connect with that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so sort of looping back to the commission. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, director of health and well-being in the European Commission, and I mean that sounds quite scary to me. So, but in hindsight, and you contributed so much in terms of with a mindfulness and an environmental focus, and even if you had Luca's help beforehand, would you do anything different? Would you be more courageous in the face of this power? Or are there things, because I've heard you say also, like I switched off my heart and just my head, because it's such a heady place, organization full of lawyers and
yeah. That's in a way, but it might be long to explain all this, but the crucial point I want to address is the importance, the fundamental importance of authentic relationships. And my way towards power was to really connect. There is this story with the boss that I had, who was a very, very tough woman, very tough, extremely feared in the commission, very tough, ruthless. And she happened to be my direct supervisor. And we had a lot of clashes, a lot, and but gradually, I remember, I don't know what was the tipping point in my relationship with her, where I started relating from the good boy that I am with the good girl that lies inside her. And I think now I remember, in one of her promotions, where she moved within the organization, I was to give the farewell speech, and at the time we were 5 heads of units. I was a middle manager, and we were 5, and there was an assistant. So there were 7 of us and her, and of course 7 men and a woman is very much Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you know. So I made a speech around that, you know, saying, okay, you know, no, she was Snow White, you know, and there, by writing that speech, I started saying, no, I imagine this good girl, you know, this good girl who means well, etc., etc. And I started to change the prism of how I saw her. I forced myself, okay, let me see this woman as if she was Snow White, you know. You call it Snow White in Blancanieves. So by changing my lenses and start seeing what was good in her, I started looking for that, you know, paying attention to that. And slowly and gradually, a little later, I did my first retreat in Plan Village, in the Zen Buddhist monastery in France. And I went back to Brussels, and a couple of days later, we had one of those awful, tough meetings talking about finances or budgetary whatever. And at the end of the meeting, everybody left, and I stayed with her in her office. And she said, okay, Fernando, tell me something interesting. You're always doing curious things. What have you done lately? I just came from a Buddhist retreat. What?
Wow,
tell me. No, and I told her about mindfulness. And yeah, this is a wonderful place in the middle of nature, you know, and you have your first meditation in the meditation hall at 6 o'clock in the morning with these big bells, you know, and then you do mindful eating, you know, where you eat in silence, and then you do mindful walking where you're focusing your attention on your feet touching the ground, and then you do mindful working, so you do the dishes, but I mean, you can do only one dish in 2 hours because the fall, you know. And she was listening to me like amazed. Following this, she calls, Fernando, where can I do this mindfulness thing? And this is where I called Jeroen, the guy of the podcast. And I said, Jeroen, I'm sending you the Director General for Human Resources in the European Commission. Please. Said, yes, of course. And she did the mindfulness training.
You were her Luca, you know?
I was her, yes, in a way I was her Luca. Yes, I was her Luca. And she loved it.
I bet she did.
And since then, in my weekly meetings, you know, I went every week to report on all these things, you know, and more those meetings were about Irene and Nando talking about ourselves. And then at the end, okay, what do you need today? Okay, I need some money for this, and I need your signature. Okay, and I was so smooth. And at one point, I said, Irene, why don't we introduce this with the other senior managers? I said, listen, I'll help you with that. And you know what? We are going to choose the most reluctant ones for the first pilot. So we're not going to take the easy ones.
Yeah.
The cynics, you know?
Yeah.
I remember the first session where they were sitting on the floor, you know, with their ties a bit like that, you know, and okay, now you close your eyes. You know, and when I saw them with their eyes closed, legs crossed, you know, breathing, I said, my goodness, something is happening here. This is new ground completely, you know. But it was thanks to her.
But yeah, well, the right person at the right time, because it was just that, but it's the opening in there. But this beautiful, authentic relationships. And I think that in organizational life, we can get so hidden behind our identity, our roles, our armor. And actually, organizations are beautiful when they create that collective community, don't they? They create our home for community, and a community is about authentic relationships.
Definitely, but people hide behind their roles and their job descriptions and their titles, you know, and yeah.
Let's say, looking back, what would you tell Nando if, you know, around 30s?
You know, what I realize now with hindsight and 62 years is that the importance of time is the most precious thing we have, you know, and when you marry to an organization like the European Commission, as I did when I was 27, you know, I lost the mastery of my time. And even if I did many interesting things, you know, from Monday 8 o'clock until Friday 7 in the evening, I was there and I wasn't elsewhere, you know. So, and therefore, you know, that is already one thing, you know. Don't, in French they say, il faut pas perdre la vie à la gagner. You don't need to lose your life by trying to earn it, you know. So in a way, the work is important, of course, it's a source of income, it's a source of making progress, of growth, of having an impact, etc., etc. But there is much more to life than work, much more to life. And I was very influenced already in the 90s when I read this book by Joy Dominguez, Your Money or Your Life, which influenced me massively. And the main contention of that book is we are born with life energy, and this life energy is what allows you to be joyful, to live intensely, to really connect, actualize, etc., etc. And very often we decide to take this life energy and put it in a job, and in exchange for that we have money and 20 days of holidays and weekends, and we try to get with that money and those weekends all the joy that we could have directly by using this life energy. So the book talks a lot about the concept of enough, how much is enough, finding a right balance, because by being, and I remember this conversation I had with one of my previous supervisors and who had a very reputation of being very tough. And I went to see him day one and said, listen, Philippe, he was a Belgian guy. I am a very responsible civil servant, but I'm also a very responsible father. And I'm also a very responsible citizen. So if you need me after 7, you tell me before, because I won't be there. And the guy, but he accepted, and I said, I will deliver. I will deliver. So one thing which is interesting for people starting a career is the crucial role of social entrepreneurship, changing the organizations, and what is easier, changing an organization from within or from outside? And I'm still struggling. From outside is even more difficult. You're with the banner in front of the building of the European Commission and nobody notices you. But changing from inside is a very interesting balancing act between introducing innovations which are going to be confronted with eye rolling very often. Okay, here he comes, mindfulness or volunteering or, whatever, So those innovations are going to sap your credibility. And therefore the other side is how can you continuously maintain your credibility? And it's very important that you do this deliberate work of being seen as a credible operator within the organization. So if I say I'll send you the email tomorrow at 9, you send the email tomorrow at 9. If you arrive on time to the meetings, you deliver upon your objectives, because this credibility is going to be the platform for you to be able to introduce the innovations. And these innovations are going to continuously diminish your credibility. So you need to rebuild it continuously. There is a balancing act into that, because I see many people pushing for many new things, but they don't have personal credibility and they don't fly, So it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, that building that trust and the authentic relationship. I love, there's a model around, like credibility and reliability and intimacy, the combination of that,
Absolutely. That's the mix. Yeah. That's the mix. And it's a difficult one.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, mind you, Greta Thunberg sat outside a building with a planner, with a banner. So I might go to community in just terms of timing. Community, there's collapsing communities, and what have you really learned? Because I think that, for the European Commission itself, but the European community, you're such a European citizen, a global citizen. Mm-hmm. You've got Plum Village, your deep adaptation, you're creating in terms of, I think this sort of death doula community. It seems, what are you thinking about community?
Well, I know you're very much into Vision Quest, and I've had only one. But it was last summer. But that community, that tribe, was a tribe, and is still a tribe. We spent 10 days in the woods together in Catalonia with Transalchimia, with Xavi and Diana, and the bond that we had those 10 days by connecting with ourselves. By the way, Nando is comes from there. You know, in the first introduction, the check-in, what's your name? I decided to use the name that I call myself. And this is my name when I was a child, and this is how my sibling calls me and how my friends call me. You know, it's a name which is very, very close to my soul. So I am Nando, I'm not Fernando, you know, and therefore I decided so the connection with myself, with my fears that I started with Luca, etc., the connection with others, you know, in those circles, sharing about all, you know, our delusions, our illusions, our fears, our disgraces, our you know, and then the connection with nature, you know, this triple connection within a community, within a group, you know, daying, you know, from the morning to the evening, you know, it was, I mean, those 10 days were so amazing, you know, and when you're together with a group and really touching the common ground of what it means to be a human being, trying to be the best version of what we can be, because we can be amazingly interesting, you know, and amazingly good, you know, that is something I nurture, and I love it. You know, every time I'm in situations with people where basically we are relating deeply. One of the practices I facilitate in deep adaptation is deep relating, which is based on circling and authentic relating, you know, which is a very beautiful practice, which is meditation in a relationship. Maybe you know about it.
Yeah.
So being here with you, Penelope, now, I feel my legs shaking and I feel a warmth in my chest, you know, and I feel a lot of love and you know, so this kind of thing, sharing, and then you say, hearing you say that, I notice, you know, so community is crucial. And I tend to even go beyond the human community, beyond the modern human, you know. So and this is what I'm trying to embrace, you know.
Yeah, and you're really feeling that connection with the non-human, and so
More.
Yeah, I'm sort of linking back to your other, you know, who's down in hell or in eternity, you know, like the sense that you always knew that there was a bigger beyond the human world. Definitely. You know, like it's circling back to that, isn't it?
There is a wider embrace.
Yeah.
You know, which is the not only me, is whole humanity, but it's all the mammals and it's all the living beings and it's all the planets and it's all the you know. So it's and then there are embraces within me. You know, there is a community of bacteria in my guts.
Yeah, you know, you got your tribe.
I have a friend, an American friend, Michael Dowd, who talks about the nested dolls. You know, I'm doll number 5 in you know, these Russian dolls. You know, so and there are dolls inside me, and I'm a doll among many other bigger dolls. You know, so this idea that it's a fantasy to see yourself as an individual. You know?
Yeah. But and so therefore, how do we do that? How do we go from the Vision Quest, you know, tribe and the feeling of that? And I mean, I suppose you're doing it with adaptation, but how do we mainstream that? How do we get in our bodies and make sure that, you know, people are turning up in their organizations or in life, like their whole self, they, you know, without our armor or, you know?
Well, I mean, that covers many things, and we can go many different places. We can go to the eco-villages movement that I'm trying, and I'm also part of the transition town movement in Spain. I'm in the leading team in the transition towns, and you know, Rob Hoppins. You know, the idea is to create local communities, neighborhoods, or villages, or cities where you reinforce the resilience, you know, to face the impacts and you reduce the footprint. You know, that's one way to go. If you want to go into another conversation, which is within organizations, one of the things I did in my previous job before Director for Health and Wellbeing, when I was the top HR consultant in the Commission, I invited Frédéric Laloux in the Commission. And if you don't know about Frédéric Laloux, you better start taking note. Reinventing organizations. He's a Belgian consultant, you know, who worked for many years in one of those Boston Consulting or one of those, you know, and he was completely demoralized, and he started looking into new types of organizations, authentic organizations, you know, and his book is Reinventing Organizations. He found a few of them, and in the book he describes them, you know, and these are organizations without where the leader is a coach. It doesn't make any decision whatsoever, you know, and with the leader has done a lot of developmental work with himself. So they are egoless leaders, you know. These are organizations without plans, without, you know, they navigate, you know. The organizations focus on the common good, but of course they need to make some income to survive, you know. So in the book, he describes the main features of these organizations, but he says, okay, the first thing is you need a leader who has these characteristics. You don't need managers, you know. Managers become mentors or whatever, you know. All decisions are made by the personnel themselves, you know, the people, self-organized, etc., etc. And I invited him to the commission in 2014, I think, and he came, and it was amazing. And I even took him to speak to the vice presidents of the commission, you know, the vice president responsible for human resources at the time. You know, we had a conversation, the three of us, and of course, no, didn't have an impact, you know, because the commission is far away from that.
Yeah, because it's sort of in a way that it needs to dismantle, like
indeed,
in a way to then recreate, like
indeed.
to die in some form, because they're so, you know, they are so rigid, the institution.
So, but how you create that? You can create pockets within the organization where you start having, you know, because in my case, when I was director for Health and Wellbeing, all my meetings started with 1 minute silence meditation, you know, and many people were, what is this, you know? So they arrive there, okay, let's arrive here, so let's with a bell, you know, those kind of things. And one of the practices that Frédéric Laloux mentions in the book is amazing. In all meetings, you have a bell. You have somebody with a bell, and whenever somebody speaks from their ego, it is the bell.
But then, you know, like I suppose it's, you know, a shadow ego, because our ego creates things. It makes things happen, isn't it? It's the health.
Yes, indeed. Indeed is.
But I suppose, you know, like in terms of if it's not in service of the bigger.
That's the point, you know. Ego is a force, you know, but I mean, it's where you directed it, you know. So complicated tool.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like, how do I really believe, I see, you know, in terms of rising consciousness and people feeling more connected with themselves, and or maybe that's sort of, you know, a 51-year-old woman looking back and thinking, you know, that's true. But I see so much hope in people's evolution, just young people, just beyond, you know, wisdom that I, you know, absolutely I had no access to or didn't, you know, tap into at that age. I mean, it really is quite humbling.
They get there much earlier than I did. Definitely. They understand things. They get things. It took me long to get things. I don't know. Maybe because I believed in a certain model and they no longer believe in that model. Maybe.
That's the thing. Our beliefs are just constructs, aren't we? And we take them as fact. You know, there will be a hell, there will be an eternity, there will be and so we just go along with this, and until actually, what is that? Is that, and then you jump out of a parachute and go, oh, hold on, maybe. Yeah. Wait, actually, Miguel and Sophia, your children,
yes.
I guess, are they, you know, there's something about, you know, you being, because it's authentic and integrity, but they've seen an evolution in you, whether it be, you know, you're busy doing things, you know, away from home, but then the sort of, resurgence. And so it's hard. Part of our evolution is to let go, or to deep adaptation, relinquish. So you
relinquish.
So how do has your relationship changed, or are they, or, you know, like
they are amused. They are amused, you know.
What's Dad doing now?
What is the latest thing he's doing now? You know, I remember, you know, This retreat with deep adaptation with Jem Bendel in September 2019 was in Cumbria, which is south of Scotland, and Miguel is doing his doctorate in Edinburgh. So at the end of the retreat, I said, okay, why don't we meet in Samyeling, which is a Buddhist monastery there in southern Scotland. And it was an amazing days that I spent with Miguel there, you know, and we took walks, you know, and we were meditating together, and I was telling him about collapse, and he was welcoming that, like, okay, yeah, because he's an engineer, you know, I mean, when you tell him about greenhouse gases, he knows what I'm talking about, you know, and it is curious, you know, how I'm trying to nurture a relationship with them where I also embrace my vulnerabilities, you know, and my not knowing. And, you know, when I retired from the commission, I decided to rename my job title is experienced beginner. I accept that I'm a beginner. I accept that I have a lot of experience, which most of which would probably is irrelevant, you know. So they are amused by my searching and my, you know, okay, now I go for a Camino, now I go to a Vision Quest, now I'm doing that. And with Sophia as well, you know, I have a very tender relationship with her, trying to be there for her, you know, with more difficulties to explain to her my thoughts about collapse. Miguel, in a way, he's 25, and I don't know, he sees some sense of adventure, you know, okay, world collapsing, you know, and creating new communities, you know, and Kalashnikovs, you know, okay, the bad guys will arrive, and, you know, so in a way he takes, you know, the adventure kind of thing. So it's a bit more scary, so it's more difficult to have those conversations, but they know I'm there for them. So it's probably the most beautiful thing in my life, you know, my relationship with these two souls. Definitely.
But also this, you know, generational healing and being, you know, each generation gets a chance, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, in establishing their relationship and just a conscious dad offering, you know, like just sort of opening doors or showing them, or, you know, the passion, you know, because you're a passionate guy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the interview about you, and I learned so many things about you. So, by the way, thank you for that gift. You know,
oh, it's fun.
You're asking all the questions, and you know, you're such an amazing person. In a way, such a gift to the world. You know.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. I like being on this side better. Is there anything else you know, like, well, there's so much as well, you know, because you've got in terms of the deep, but anything you want to say that we haven't really, that you really, in terms of, if I think about, you know, a connection with ourselves, each other, and the earth that is our home.
Yeah. You know, the awareness that I'm 62 and therefore I have I'm in the last lap of my life, you know, and this idea of being of service and how best to be of service, you know, and the work that I still need to do, that I still want to do, the soul craft work a la Bill Plotkin, you know, that one needs to do, you know, in order to really be of service and you know, even aspiring to be an elder is in itself silly, you know, but the world needs elders. The world needs elders more than ever, you know, and as Bill Plotkin says, you know, most people my age are late adolescents at best. You know, imagine somebody like Trump, not even a late adolescent, an early adolescent. You know, most, you know, we live in a society where we don't do the work, the soul craft work, in order to be able to go down, you know, to go to the underworld and meet your demons, you know, and so that you can really be of service and bring some wisdom in these troubled times, you know. So I think this is what I'm trying to do in the coming years, you know, to deepen in this elderhood kind of world, but it's very challenging indeed.
Very uncomfortable. And what is it? Awareness won't necessarily make you happy, but yeah, I really respect it in terms of, he said, like there's lots of good people that are doing good work and loving the community and loving their families and loving their work, but the world's still a mess. If we were those outers, if we were those conscious adults, the world wouldn't be in the state of
definitely not
extinction. So we have to do something, even though he may, his terminology or whatever, or however you say it. Yeah, it's evident. There's evidence out there that we're.
So that's the thing. What to do with the rest of my life. I have a deep sense of duty and responsibility not to waste it. Not that I think that I've wasted my life up until now. I was the best version of myself in every moment of my life, but now I think with the times that are coming, which in my opinion are going to get rougher and rougher, we need to hold and hold the space and be with the mess as best as possible ourselves, so that we can bring some solace and some some love and compassion and kindness and those things which we will massively need, so that's the mission in a way.
Oh, really, I mean, it's so beautiful. I just do, because I think of your big heart, and your sense of there's an earnestness and a passion, that's to be that competent elder.
Yeah.
And I know you're from the interpreter world, and I've worked with someone, and they told me that they're like your brains are actually, because it's like they said, it's like landing a jet plane. The amount of stress that's required to land a jet plane is what you're doing all the time because of this simultaneously.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So I know.
It was there. Yeah.
That resilience, if I think of deep adaptation, you've built up your resilience, that big heart and this grace of relinquishment in order to, what is the
resilience, relinquishment, reconciliation is another important, making peace with yourself, with others, with death, with the dark side as well. So that's an important one, reconciliation. Definitely. And restoration is the fourth one, and that is an important one. And this is also part of the things I want to do when I go back now to Spain. Edit all forests. Maybe in northern Spain there are too many eucalyptus. Which come from your area. So we need oaks and chestnuts. And those are the kind of things that belong there. So if I can do some work in that sense, that will also be good. To restore a few ecosystems there as well. So
local, that's community, and what is it? Head, heart, and hands. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Oh, you know what? When I read your bio, do you know what came to mind? Do you know the poem? I'm going to just hold on. George Carlin. Do you know it's Life in Reverse?
No.
Okay.
Life in Reverse.
So settle in. And then I might ask you to do a little meditation afterwards, or any little, whether it be 2 minutes or just a little thing that you want to just offer. Do you want to do that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Have you got time? Okay. So listen to this. So Life in Reverse by George Carlin, 1937. He was born. He died in 2008. This is like, in my next life, I want to live my life backwards. You start out dead and get that out of the way. Then you wake up in an old people's home feeling better every day. You get kicked out for being too healthy. Go collect your pension. And then when you start work, you get a gold watch and a party on your first day. You work 40 years until you're young enough to enjoy your retirement. You party, drink alcohol, and are generally promiscuous. Then you're ready for high school. You then go to primary school. You become a kid. You play. You have no responsibilities. You become a baby until you are born. And then you spend your last 9 months floating in luxurious spa-like conditions with central heating and room service on tap. large quarters every day, and then voila, you finish off as an orgasm. I rest my case.
Beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous? Life in reverse.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Nando, would you like to just offer any little thing for us?
Yeah. Let's do that. Yes, indeed. Wow, I'm feeling my feet on the ground now. This is what I suggest that you do, that you connect with the contact with the floor, and your bare feet is even better, but if you're not, it's okay. And maybe you notice this exchange going on through your feet and the soil, which is the surface of the earth, and the earth is so generous that you can very confidently through your feet share with the earth all the things that are worrying you, all the things that are troubling you, and you can give them to her. She welcomes them. It's very strong and very nurturing, and in exchange you can feel through your feet that she's sending a lot of beautiful colors and liquids and bird songs and warmth. And this exchange with our connection with the earth is such an important thing that you can feel then going up through your legs, your knees, through your hips, and maybe through your belly, where all the power resides. And then you move to your back, focus on your back. And imagine this strong back, which is the symbol of your equanimity. How can you stay with the mess? But if you move from the back to the heart, you go to the soft heart, which is the symbol of your compassion. And this combination of a strong back and a soft heart is what we need. This comes from John Halifax. We manage to connect with our body through the feet and the connection with the earth, and from there go to our back, which structures our being in this planet with equanimity, and combine it with the softness of our heart, the kindness and the compassion. I think that make us the best version of ourselves. Thank you, Penelope.
Beautiful soul.
Wow. You too.
Thank you.
See you soon, I hope.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll put a pause here and see you back for the next Earth Converse podcast. In the meantime, go out and enjoy Earth, one conversation at a time.